Power tends to corrupt, and absolute power corrupts absolutely. This timeless quote by Lord Acton echoes through the dark legacy of Idi Amin, one of the most feared dictators in modern African history. Few leaders in the 20th century inspired both shock and fascination like Amin. He was a man of enormous contradictions, physically commanding and personable to some, yet capable of unspeakable cruelty. His rule left hundreds of thousands dead and a nation in shambles. To understand how such a man could rise and dominate a country like Uganda, we must start from the beginning. Idi Amin's origins were shrouded in mystery. He was born around 1925 in Kiboko, a town in Uganda's remote northwest. His ethnic group, the Kakwa, were a minority and part of a broader group of Sudanese and West Nile peoples not historically included in Uganda's political elite. Raised by his mother, a traditional herbalist and diviner, Amin grew up in hardship. He herded goats, hunted, and swam in crocodile-infested rivers. He was illiterate until adulthood, receiving only a few years of formal education under British colonial rule. Yet what he lacked in education he made up for in physical strength, endurance and obedience, qualities the British colonial army valued. In 1946, Amin joined the King's African Rifles (KR), a British colonial regiment. He served with distinction in Somalia during the British campaign and later in Kenya during the Mau Mau uprising. His brutality against suspected rebels earned him both fear and praise. By the early 1960s, he had become one of the few black officers in the KR. When Uganda gained independence in 1962, the new Prime Minister Milton Obote kept Amin in the army and soon promoted him to deputy commander of the army. The relationship between Obote and Amin was one of convenience. Obote needed a loyal and intimidating enforcer. Amin craved power and recognition. But that partnership would soon turn into rivalry. Obote began consolidating power in the 1960s, sidelining Uganda's ceremonial president and rewriting the constitution. Amin, meanwhile, was made Army Chief of Staff and then Major General. By 1969, Amin was implicated in a gold and ivory smuggling scandal, which embarrassed Obote and triggered suspicions. Obote ordered an investigation. Amin, sensing danger, began building secret alliances within the military, particularly with soldiers from his own tribe and region. These men were loyal to Amin, not Uganda. On January 25, 1971, while Obote was away at a Commonwealth summit in Singapore, Amin launched a military coup. Troops loyal to him seized key government buildings and the airport. Obote was overthrown, and Amin declared himself president and commander-in-chief. In his first speeches, Amin sounded humble and reconciliatory. He promised to restore democracy, free political prisoners, and hold elections. Ugandans, many of whom were weary of Obote's autocracy, welcomed the change. Churches, universities, and even foreign governments gave Amin the benefit of the doubt. But behind the scenes he was already preparing for something far darker. Soon after the coup, Amin abolished multi-party politics, dismissed parliament, and made himself president for life. He renamed the presidential residence the command post, and transformed Uganda into a militarized police state. His most notorious tool of repression was the State Research Bureau, a secret police force that operated torture chambers, especially in the basement of the notorious Nakasero State Lodge and Makindye military prison. Thousands were abducted, tortured, and executed. Whole families disappeared overnight. Amin became paranoid. He began executing senior officers, judges, ministers, and even personal friends. If he dreamed that someone had betrayed him, they were likely to be dead by morning. Ethnic cleansing became systematic. Soldiers from southern Uganda and the Akoli and Langi tribes, associated with Obote, were targeted and killed en masse. In August 1972, Amin made an announcement that shocked the world. He accused the Asian community, primarily Indians and Pakistanis, of economic sabotage and gave them 90 days to leave Uganda. Over 50,000 Asians, many of whom were born in Uganda and held British passports, were expelled. They were forced to leave behind homes, businesses, and wealth. Amin redistributed their assets to his supporters, often military cronies who had no business experience. Uganda's economy, once one of East Africa's strongest, began to unravel. Meanwhile, Amin's foreign policy became erratic. He declared support for Palestinian militants, Muammar Gaddafi and North Korea's Kim Il-sung, while insulting Britain and Israel. After Israel raided Entebbe airport in 1976 to rescue hostages, Amin ordered retaliatory killings of hostages and anyone suspected of helping the Israelis. He adorned himself with bizarre titles like His Excellency President for Life, Field Marshal Al-Haji Dr. Idi Amin Dada VC DSO MC, Conqueror of the British Empire, King of Scotland. But behind the humor was horror. By the late 1970s, estimates suggest between 300,000 and 500,000 people had died under his rule. By 1978, Uganda was collapsing. The economy was in ruins. Universities and hospitals barely functioned. Amin's inner circle had shrunk as his paranoia deepened. He drank heavily, made incoherent speeches, and surrounded himself with witch doctors. That same year, Amin invaded Tanzania, claiming the Kagera region along the border. It was a desperate distraction to unify Ugandans against an external enemy. But Tanzania, under President Julius Nyerere, retaliated decisively. With the help of Ugandan exiles and exile groups like the Uganda National Liberation Front, UNLF, Tanzanian forces advanced deep into Uganda. In April 1979, they captured the capital, Kampala, with little resistance. Amin had already fled, first to Libya, then to Saudi Arabia where he was granted asylum. He lived comfortably in Jeddah until his death in 2003, never tried for his crimes, never expressing remorse. Idi Amin left behind a shattered nation. The damage was not just economic or political, it was psychological. Families never found the bodies of loved ones. A generation grew up with fear as a daily companion. Even today, older Ugandans remember to lower their voices when discussing politics. Yet Uganda endured. Under leaders like Yoweri Museveni, the country slowly rebuilt, though not without struggle. Amin's story is a chilling reminder of how power, charisma, and militarism, when left unchecked, can plunge a nation into darkness. He was not just a tyrant, he was a symptom of deeper issues, colonial legacies, ethnic divisions, and weak institutions. Idi Amin's rise began in obscurity and ended in disgrace. He ruled with an iron fist but left behind no legacy of development, only fear and bloodshed. His story is not just about Uganda, it's a lesson for the world. When we allow leaders to silence critics, dehumanize minorities, or exalt themselves above the law, the seeds of tyranny are sown. And as history shows us again and again, those seeds bear bitter fruit.